Biden leaves a complicated legacy that has some mixed results by all objective means. He, of course, is trying to put together a ceasefire deal at the very last minute. And one can't help but think back to Carter's last day in office as he was trying to broker the release of Iranian hostages, held hostages, right before President Reagan was about to take office. So very similar circumstances here. This time, of course, these are Israeli citizens being held hostage by Hamas. He would very much like to go have that secured before Monday so that he can take credit for it, for sure.
How significant do you think it would be for a successful deal to take place in the final days of the Biden administration, and how would that impact the incoming Trump administration?
If Israeli officials are able to secure approval from their side, it would be difficult for Trump to try to undo that if he were to come into office and have a different perspective or point of view. Certainly, there's a lot of complex negotiations happening between Israel and Hamas, and that would be something that would be very difficult to unwind or modify, even if Trump were so inclined to provoke a stronger military response. Now, certainly that doesn't mean that the United States couldn't take more expansive military action in the region if that aligns with Trump's foreign policy perspective. Historically, though, he's gone on record saying, while he's a staunch defender of Israel, he's loath to commit U.S. troops to conflicts abroad that don't directly involve American interest.
Joe Biden also oversaw the US withdrawal from Afghanistan. He said this morning that he thinks history will see that as the right way to have gone about it. How will that be remembered, do you think? And given how close to his election it happened, how do you think that set up his 4 years in the White House?
Well, it went off obviously with a lot of complexity and complications. It was not a smooth exit. He took a lot of blame for that withdrawal because of its chaotic nature and how difficult it was then to claim a total withdrawal in a clean way. And of course, that did make it difficult for him to start off his presidency on a strong footing. I think history is going to remember that conflict end as being the right decision. How it, of course, transpired was messy, certainly with undesirable outcomes and results. But in the end, for American interests at least, and probably the global environment would agree with this too, it certainly was for the best. He made a point today of emphasizing that he's the first president in over 3 decades to not have to visit American troops in a war-prone scenario. And I think that was his way of acknowledging that the withdrawal from Afghanistan, as messy as it might have been initially, was in fact the right thing to do.
Russia's war in Ukraine has also been a significant point of tension for Joe Biden's presidency. What impact do you think that will have on his legacy?
Well, Putin has, of course, made it difficult for the American diplomatic efforts to come alongside and support Ukraine without explicit military involvement. Biden, of course, has been a full-throated defender of Ukraine, providing lots of military support. No active troops, but the equipment, the drones, the intelligence, the quote-unquote American treasure, if you will, with military infrastructure has been the key to Ukraine's defense. Undoubtedly, that will come into question when President Trump takes office on Monday. He and Putin have a well-known friendship, and he has indicated that he would want to have a role in not expanding the conflict, bringing it to an end, but perhaps on terms that are more favorable to Russia. If possible, Biden's attempt to wrap things up in his last week would also include some sort of final diplomatic efforts to make sure that Ukraine is supported by European allies if the United States support seems to be wavering when Trump comes to office on Monday.
Foreign policy was a major election issue. We've obviously seen Donald Trump re-elected. What do you think that says about how the Biden administration was received by Americans?
Biden struggled with just general political approval. He's leaving office with a 56% disapproval. In contrast, President Obama left his final week with a 57% approval. So quite a difference there. Now, no surprise, Biden struggled his first term to connect on a number of different issues. He took over during active COVID protocols and spent a lot of his early days negotiating the pandemic response and the economic aftermath. Certainly, foreign policy was something that he tried to make progress on. His longtime career in the Senate gave him a good understanding of foreign relations and international diplomacy efforts underway. But because of the challenging domestic pressures that he found himself in, I think he's going to leave office thinking he could have done more or wishing he could have done more. Now, certainly, 3.5 years, almost 4 years, is difficult to judge anyone single-handedly. I think his legacy will go back into his prior days as Senate and vice president. It stretched over 5 decades, so certainly the Biden legacy has many components to it. And his last coda, if you will, in the White House was just the final end of his career.